Imagine a heist so staggering it left investigators baffled for years. A theft worth Rs 29,000 crores, or approximately $3.5 billion. This was not just any case. It was a cybercrime that crossed borders and defied detection. A crime buried in the shadows of the dark web. For years, top investigative agencies were on the hunt, but the puzzle pieces wouldn't come together. Little did they know, a single phone call would change everything. Enter Jimmy Jung, a young man with an appetite for the high life who never thought twice about flaunting his wealth. But on September 13, 2019, Jimmy made a call to 911 that would ultimately unravel a world-class heist linked to the dark web's notorious Silk Road. That one call set off a chain of events that would expose a massive web of crime, bringing investigators closer to one of the biggest crypto mysteries in modern history. This case wasn't just about recovering stolen funds. It marked a turning point in the battle against cybercrime. The heist exposed vulnerabilities in the financial systems and shed light on the complexities of the digital underworld, revealing just how intricate and far-reaching these crimes could be. For investigators, this wasn't just about bringing one man to justice. It was about tackling an entire network of illegal activity that had gone unchecked for years. It was September 13, 2019, in the quiet town of Athens, Georgia, when an emergency call was made that would shake things up in unimaginable ways. Jimmy Jung, a young resident of Athens, dialed 911, claiming that $400,000 had been stolen from his house. For any police officer, a theft of this size was unusual, to say the least. Yet Jimmy was insistent, and his report compelled law enforcement to investigate a seemingly local crime that would eventually reveal much bigger secrets. When the police arrived, they were met with shock and disbelief. The idea that someone could have $400,000 at home raised immediate suspicions. But as they began looking deeper, it became apparent that Jimmy's story wasn't straightforward. This young man, with his opulent tastes and extravagant spending, drew the curiosity of investigators, who couldn't ignore the signs that there was more to his wealth than he was letting on. Jimmy Jung was no ordinary young man from Georgia. Known for his flashy lifestyle, he was a university graduate with a reputation as a party boy. He would often be seen at the hottest parties, where he would spend thousands of dollars in a single night, treating his friends to expensive drinks and exclusive events. With a luxurious home, an advanced security system, and a penchant for splurging, Jimmy's life seemed too good to be true. And in many ways, it was. To his friends, Jimmy was a successful crypto investor, a story that seemed plausible given the skyrocketing value of Bitcoin in recent years. But as investigators looked closer, the extent of his lavish lifestyle began to raise questions. His spending was so excessive that it became hard to believe he'd accumulated this wealth solely through legitimate means. For detectives, this only added fuel to their investigation, making them question the true source of Jimmy's seemingly endless fortune. With $400,000 missing from his home and the police not fully convinced of his story, Jimmy decided to hire a private detective named Martinelli to help track down the culprit. Martinelli was a sharp, seasoned investigator with a knack for piecing together complex cases. Jimmy suspected the theft might have been an inside job, pointing fingers at his circle of friends who knew about his substantial cash stashes. Martinelli agreed to investigate, delving into Jimmy's social circle to uncover any possible motive or opportunity among his acquaintances. Martinelli soon realized that Jimmy's finances weren't as straightforward as they appeared. By analyzing bank statements, browsing his social media accounts, and tracing his online transactions, Martinelli started noticing an unusually high amount of Bitcoin activity. Jimmy was active on cryptocurrency forums and boasted about his success in Bitcoin trading. But the detective sensed there was more to his story. The lavish spending habits, combined with his vague explanations, hinted at something much bigger than just successful investments. When questioned, Jimmy claimed he'd made his fortune through early Bitcoin investments, taking advantage of the cryptocurrency's meteoric rise. However, the detective couldn't ignore one glaring detail that kept surfacing: Silk Road. The now-defunct dark web marketplace had long been associated with illicit trading and massive Bitcoin transactions. Martinelli started connecting the dots between Jimmy's suspicious wealth and the infamous Silk Road heist, which had left over 51,000 Bitcoins, worth billions today, unaccounted for. As Martinelli's findings piled up, the police brought in their cybercrime unit. Detectives were now looking beyond the $400,000 cash theft and into the possibility that Jimmy was linked to a much larger scheme. The Silk Road heist was notorious for its scale and complexity, and investigators began suspecting that Jimmy might be tied to those missing bitcoins. The evidence was growing too suspicious to ignore, and it seemed likely that Jimmy's wealth was rooted in something far more illicit than a few savvy trades. To dig deeper, undercover officers visited Jimmy's home under the guise of assisting with the investigation. While there, they spotted several Bitcoin mining rigs, an odd setup for someone who claimed to have already amassed a fortune from Bitcoin. These machines suggested he was still actively involved in crypto operations. It was clear that Jimmy's involvement in the digital currency world went beyond just trading. He was deeply connected to something larger and potentially illegal. The Cybercrime Unit's investigation took a crucial turn when they managed to access Jimmy's Bitcoin wallet. By analyzing his transactions, they made an alarming discovery. Jimmy's wallet contained transactions that matched with addresses linked to the Silk Road heist. The Bitcoin addresses traced directly to the 51,000 Bitcoins that had mysteriously vanished in 2012, a theft that had puzzled investigators for years. This connection was the smoking gun, the evidence they needed to confirm Jimmy's involvement in the infamous heist. The realization that Jimmy was sitting on a digital fortune stolen from Silk Road rocked the investigation. His Bitcoin transactions lined up precisely with the timeline and amounts associated with the heist, and investigators were now certain they had uncovered a massive cybercrime. The theft was more than just a lucky grab. It was part of an intricately planned operation, tied to one of the largest black market networks ever to exist. In one final twist, while searching Jimmy's home, investigators stumbled upon an unexpected hiding spot. Inside a Cheetos container, tucked away in his pantry, was a hard wallet containing a digital treasure trove. This wallet held the key to the stolen bitcoins, now valued at an astonishing $3.5 billion. Jimmy's attempt to disguise the wallet among his snacks was clever, but not enough to outwit the investigators. With the wallet in hand, authorities had all the proof they needed to close the case, marking the end of a staggering global manhunt for the missing Silk Road fortune. Under pressure from mounting evidence, Jimmy finally confessed to his shocking role in the Silk Road heist. According to his statement, he had exploited a loophole in the Silk Road marketplace, a vulnerability that allowed him to siphon bitcoins from the platform without detection. Jimmy described how he had meticulously planned the heist, transferring the funds in small increments to avoid raising suspicion. His operation went unnoticed for years, enabling him to amass a fortune without tipping off law enforcement or Silk Road's operators. When the heist was eventually discovered, the owner of Silk Road attempted to track down the culprit. Jimmy, however, managed to stay under the radar long enough to negotiate a risky deal. Desperate to keep the peace, Silk Road's owner ultimately agreed to let Jimmy keep the stolen bitcoins, fearing that exposing the theft might draw even more unwanted attention to the dark web marketplace. In exchange, Jimmy agreed to stay silent about the security breach, leaving Silk Road's clients unaware that their assets had been compromised. Jimmy's actions did not go unpunished. Following his confession, the courts convicted him of multiple charges, including cyber theft and money laundering. In 2023, he was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, sending a message to the growing world of cyber criminals that law enforcement would pursue such crimes relentlessly. His trial drew international attention, showcasing the increasing power and reach of law enforcement to track down even the most elusive cyber criminals. With Jimmy's conviction, authorities reclaimed the stolen bitcoins, which now had an astronomical value. Yet despite the recovery, no one from Silk Road stepped forward to claim the funds, as doing so would implicate them in Silk Road's illegal operations. The case became a landmark in cybercrime history, illustrating both the potential for immense profits in the dark web and the high cost of criminal ambition. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more gripping tales from the shadowy corners of the internet. There's so much more to uncover in the world of cybercrime and hidden fortunes. Don't miss out.